I don't want it to hurt your feelings, but waiting is not neutral. Waiting costs you money because the market does not hold space for you while you're getting ready for it. It doesn't hold space for, oh, she's waiting, she's coming. It's moving. It is moving rapidly, and it is for us to move with it, because if we move with it, we're compounding our authority. Visibility builds on visibility, reputation builds on reputation, and that gap between where you are and where you want to be, we can shrink that quickly as long as we're not waiting. Hey guys, I'm super excited to bring you this episode because I think it's really relevant in today's world where, 1 minute ChatGPT was the thing, everyone was using it, you see it everywhere, and then there's a mass exodus literally within 24 hours to Claude. And so I think at its core, people are like, what's coming next? What's happening next? What do I need to be on top of? And I just kind of want to take a little bit of a step back around and definitely do some market predictions around what I see coming and what you need to make moves on. But I also kind of want to remove a little bit of fear, and I want to do a little bit of like stabilizing and a little bit of recalibrating. And right now, I do want to also just normalize that tools are shifting rapidly. But what we need to focus on, and what I want you to focus on, is an unshakable foundation. Generally, when I am, batching podcasts or I'm writing launch content, I do it kind of weeks in advance because the core of what I teach and what I believe, it doesn't change. That foundation doesn't change. But the world, it's moving quickly. Tactics, trends, things are moving really quickly. And that's the challenge with rapid change, is that as these tactics move, we need to have this unshakable foundation. And I've spent the last 3 decades teaching clients 3 things: sell, attract, deliver. Everything I do, every strategy I build, every roadmap I create comes back to those 3 things. Selling is where we start. What are you actually selling? How do we package it for maximum revenue and maximum client impact? Who are we selling to? How are we selling it in a way that converts without feeling like a grind? Attract is that marketing piece. How are we bringing people right into your world? How are we nurturing them? How are we converting them? And you might have heard this framed as top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel, or as the difference between cold, warm, hot audience, same concept. But how do we build a system that consistently brings the right people to you? And then delivery is actually where I think most service-based businesses kind of quietly fall apart. How do you deliver your service in a way that protects your capacity and prevents your burnout? What systems and structures do you need in place to support you? Is there team around you, or do you need to be building towards that team? And delivery done well builds your reputation. Delivery done without boundaries, that's where resentment comes to play. And then underpinning everything that I teach is scalability. And for most of my clients, scalability doesn't necessarily mean a multi-million-dollar empire. Most of them, it means maximum revenue in minimum time and building a business that fits around life. Life in the country, kids, school run seasons, and still leave something in the tank for you. That's what I believe we need to build, is a genuinely sustainable business model that works in regional life. But at its core, again, the foundation doesn't change. It's just the tactics do. And I think when we're going into this conversation around what I see coming and what moves you need to make, I just want you to know that this is coming from a decade of pattern recognition, from watching the market shift in real time, and from working with hundreds of regional women across Australia. It's seeing who wins, seeing where the plateaus are. And this is just a bit of a read on where I think the market is heading, what it means for regional women specifically, why I think the window to move is smaller than most people think. I think the opportunity cost of waiting and delaying of making decisions, I think it's costly. Right now, buyers are more discerning than they have ever been. If you have to listen to any one of the past seasons of the podcast, I've talked about it, how people are more discerning. They're not jumping at the first offer. They're researching, they're comparing, they're watching, and then they're choosing the person who looks and sounds most like the authority in the online space. They're also choosing the person who didn't pop up overnight. They're choosing someone who has built authority around them. And the online space, the noise of the online space is on the increase. That's not going to change. AI is flooding every platform with generic content. And the response from buyers is not to consume more. Like, it's not, the default response is let me consume more. It's actually let me trust less because I'm more discerning. Let me filter harder. And so it's almost like the walls to break through to your ideal client are getting higher and they're getting thicker. So what we need to do is figure out what cuts through that is not volume, because it's not volume. And so if you're feeling like, oh, I'm behind because I haven't moved to Claude, or I need to introduce skills, or I heard there's this thing that I can connect here that will do this thing that will increase my productivity, let's take a breather, because that is not what's going to get cut through. What gets cut through, and this is something I just always talk to my clients about, is like, what can we do that is going to be minimum effort and maximum impact for you? And it's simple, actually. Specificity, consistency, and depth. And depth doesn't come from the breadth of churning out AI content. It comes from genuine expertise and a clear point of view. And we have this specific advantage as, regional women that most people are not using. We have lived experience, we've got deep community trust, and we've got a perspective that can't be replicated. And I don't care if you're serving country people, if you're serving city people, there's just this thread of authenticity that comes through of, this is the life I'm living, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm operating, that doesn't come through. And it's actually an edge, it's an advantage. And so many times when I'm in conversations with clients, I'm just looking for like, what's that edge? And when I say edge, I really want you to think of what's that edge that cuts through, because it's not volume. And what all of these AI tools and all of the, the skills, what that gives us is volume. And we don't need volume. We need an edge. And so the question is not whether, you can compete nationally. It's more, how do I position myself where my edge is at the forefront? Because if you can find your edge, you can put it to the forefront and you can own your position before anyone else does. That thread of authenticity is what people are looking for in this day and age. Now, I think when we're again zooming out and looking at opportunities and what's coming, there are a lot of things that are kind of converging at the moment. Specialization is winning. The generalist market is saturated. Depth beats breadth. Depth beats breadth. Regional leaders, regional women, founders who own a specific niche and are positioning themselves to become the category of one, the obvious choice. That is how we win at a bigger level, at a national level and an international level. So I have a client who is extremely specific in her niche, and I've mentioned her before in this season. She's extremely specific in her niche, and one of the only ones that does it in the entire world, and she's becoming known for that. And this is, again, another thing that is converging right now that is creating this amazing window of opportunity, is digital has removed geography as a barrier. Most regional businesses are still acting like digital hasn't removed this barrier, and they're kind of like, this is my bubble, this is where I operate. And the women who recognize that there is no longer a geographic barrier and they're building their visibility according to, having the whole world as your oyster, they are the ones who are able to build these kind of great reputations that stretch beyond their towns. Another thing that is converging in the online space now is trust, because of the influx of AI and the noise and the skepticism. People who have built real authority with consistent positioning, lived experience, genuine results, they are the one people are moving towards. This is a structural advantage for regional women who are willing to claim it. Now, I feel like I need to say this. And y'all are my safe space, so I'm allowed to say it. Right now, and this goes back to this consistent positioning, I have been on the internet. I have been living, growing my business online for a decade. So it's not like I just joined yesterday. What I have seen, and you might be guilty of this, and it's okay if you are, but what it means is we need to do some reinforcing of your authority to really own where you're at now. I have seen so many people start as one thing, shift to another thing, move back to make another pivot, and their positioning has shifted, and it is so inconsistent that it lacks trust. It makes people just naturally distrustful. And so if you have made, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with shifts or pivots, but if you have made a shift or a pivot, you have got to have ironclad authority around you. You have got to really be able to articulate, and that's the thing, articulate why you are the best at what you're doing now. So that whole, shifting and pivoting, I have no issues with shifting and pivoting. It is the ironclad authority that we have to build around you so that trust comes through. Because if we have shifted, if we have pivoted, people notice. People aren't stupid. They're paying attention. We're in a market of discerning buyers. So if you have made a shift, if you have made a pivot, if your positioning kind of feels like you've done a bit of flip-flopping, that means we need to build some ironclad authority around you. Now, I want to say, while I'm calling out consistent positioning, if all it is that you've gone from something that's quite macro and generalist and you're not really owning a niche, and then you've gotten more specific in your niche, that's not inconsistent positioning. That's actually a strength. And so in my opinion, strengthening your authority can look really different depending upon the circumstances surround you. Now, when we're talking about like what's coming for regional businesses, I'm going to say it in a way that I don't want it to hurt your feelings, but waiting is not neutral. Waiting costs you money. I am going to use my own example here of where waiting cost me. I thought about having a podcast for 2 years before I launched this podcast. This podcast, I think, came out in 2019. Had I started in 2017, when it first occurred to me, I would have been launching a podcast in the golden age of podcasting. My listeners could look completely different today compared to where we are. Had I started that 2 years before. So there is a cost of waiting. And that's just one example of a cost of waiting. It's not neutral. Every month spent in kind of this, and I want you to take a breath because I feel like so many people are in this capped income, just convincing energy, desperate energy. Their business isn't optimized. That's going to cost you. And I find so many of my clients that are in this squeeze mode, and then they go into they're in this squeeze mode of high intense pressure. Then they go into this almost freeze mode of, I don't know what step to take. And then it takes them a long time to transition out of that into a business that's really sustainable. And so if you're in this squeeze mode, let's skip the freeze. Let's just move on to a business that's going to really hold you and support you, because the market does not hold space for you while you're getting ready for it. It doesn't hold space for, oh, she's waiting, she's coming. It's moving. The market is moving. It is moving rapidly, and it is for us to move with it, because if we move with it, we're compounding our authority. Visibility builds on visibility, reputation builds on reputation, and that gap between where you are and where you want to be, we can shrink that quickly as long as we're not waiting. And there's a version of you where I'm sure you can look back at the last 18 months and pick holes in it and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I wish I'd done that. But you guys, the best time to plant a tree, it wasn't like 20 years ago and today. And so let's plant the tree today so that there is no cost for the future. And that's a decision. That's a decision we get to make is, okay, I'm no longer going to be putting this off. I'm not waiting for one day. I'm not waiting for this arbitrary goalpost that I keep moving for myself. I'm going to make the decision today to start changing how I'm approaching my business model, and my authority. So I want to be really practical with you guys. There is obviously an element of urgency to take action to create change, but there's very practical things that we can do right now. One, get crystal clear on what you're known for. One specific thing, not a category. What's the one solution that you provide? Let's choose a visibility platform and commit to depth over frequency. Let's go deep. Stop building into this kind of hype over volume because you don't need to. And so stop putting this pressure on yourself. And then another move that you can make right now, and I think is really important, is stop building or buying into this belief that other people can do it and you can't. And oh, she doesn't have XYZ, or she's not in a small town. Because the women who are really stepping into authority, they've created that positioning around them. And it's so much easier to do that instead of starting from scratch in 18 months in an even noisier market. Let's do it today so that in 18 months, when there's even more crap on the internet, we're not building your authority from scratch. We're not building your visibility from scratch. We've already created so much depth. Can you imagine? I want you to think forward 18 months from where we are today. Can you imagine the depth and the level of specific content that you're going to be able to deliver over 18 months if you choose to start today to really claim your authority, really own your niche, and really start transitioning your business model. Can you imagine where you're going to be in, say, well, gosh, 2027, at the end of 2027? So I want to invite you guys to stop waiting and start building this kind of business that compounds. The applications to work with me are open. They are open right now, and I want to work with you. I am ready to work with women that want more than what their business is giving them right now. So this is your kind of call to action. This episode, I hope, has brought you clarity. Now is the time to move. The Regional Experts is where that move happens. It is the highest level container for regional women that exists in Australia. It is for women who are ready to build authority-led, scalable business, move from one to one, really position themselves as the expert. So I would love it if you would come join me. Send me a DM if you're thinking about it. This is kind of your rally cry. This is your call to action, and I want to work with you. All right, guys, I'll chat to you soon.